All right, so now we are at the stage where we're going to start putting together an introduction paragraph using the Butter Battle book as our exemplar. And I'm also using in the back of my mind the 4-step thinking analysis that we did earlier with the wall as the identification. So in order to have an introduction, I had to come up with a prompt. So I used a prompt from AP Lit about the symbol, right? Because our identification was the wall, and we used the wall as a symbol to represent the divisiveness or unity found within the heart. So I put this prompt up here so we could all be on the same page as to what it is that we're answering as we go throughout the introduction. All right, here's the prompt. A symbol is an object, action, or event that represents something or that creates a range of associations beyond itself. In literary works, a symbol can express an idea, clarify meaning, or enlarge literal meaning. Focusing on one such symbol from the Butter Battle book, compose a writing analyzing how that symbol functions in the work and what it reveals about the characters or themes of the work as a whole. Do not merely summarize the plot. All right, so the prompt is asking us to pick one symbol that enhances either A, a character, or B, a theme. From the 4-step earlier, we chose to go how symbol represents theme, right? And that theme was the division or unity of two groups. The first step in our introduction is the attention getter. And the attention getter is basically the topic of your paper. And we know the topic of our paper is our theme. And we know that our theme is either unity or division. And the unity or division comes from me thinking that I'm right and thinking that you're wrong, and vice versa. All right, so we can put together our topic in the form of a quote, a short anecdote, an interesting fact, begin it with a question, any relevant background material, or an analogy. And you'll see all these different examples as we go on throughout the year. Just kind of pick the ones that work best for you. Here is the example of my attention getter, and I wrote, the abstract concept of right and wrong has been contested by writers for millennia, changing meaning through time and cultures as it is perceived in various lights. Now, what this means is that basically, dependent upon time and place, when I think I'm right, I could be wrong, and vice versa, and that develops and changes and evolves throughout time. The bridge then connects this topic of right and wrong and its developing evolution to my thesis. And remember, my thesis is answering how a symbol enhances a theme. All right, so how would I connect what I just wrote here to something so specific as answering the prompt? And I chose to say, in the Butter Battle book, Dr. Seuss explores the nature of perception as an ephemeral concept rather than a permanent one by suggesting a more powerful innate unity as the source of victory. And I really wanted to hone in on victory because the book is a quote-unquote battle, right? And we go to battle to get victory, whatever that victory may be. So after our bridge, where I bring in how we go from right and wrong, it's a victory to create unity, then I answer the actual prompt. There's multiple ways to answer the prompt. I provided you guys with 2 fill-in-the-blank options, and of course you'll see it will change as you develop your own style. But 2 possible ways to structure your thesis is in the Butter Battle book. We have the name of the work, then we have our author. Dr. Seuss utilizes the symbol, which was the wall, right, in order to illustrate the idea. And here's where you come in with that 3rd layer of reading, right, the why it matters, the so what. In the Butter Battle book, Dr. Seuss demonstrates, and then you have that 3rd level of reading here the so what or the step 4 portion from the 4-step thinking, right? The why it matters portion through the use of the wall, right? Our symbol, our identification, and our authorial technique combined into one, where we have the green and the yellow together. Here is an example of a thesis that I put together. Despite being physically divisive in the book, Dr. Seuss uses the wall to symbolize the idea that in order to transcend beyond the literal scope of humanity's hubris, we must put our egos aside, break down walls, and embrace diversity. All right, so the wall is our identification. The symbolization is the technique that the author uses, the how, and then we have our why it's important in order to transcend beyond time, right? So we have our 3 levels of reading right in here as we are creating our thesis. Now this blue is pretty interesting because it's our thematic statement, and I'm going to get into thematic statement right now. A thematic statement. Take a theme or thematic idea and turn it into a statement, commentary, thus highlighting the message within the text. Thematic statements must be universal. That means that everyone must connect, and they must be able to be applied to other works from around the world. Here's an example from Hunger Games. Our theme could be fear. Our thematic statement, what are we going to say about it? Uncontrolled fear leads to violence and regret. Can this thematic statement be used in multiple instances throughout reading the Hunger Games? Yes, it can, and I can provide exact scenes of when it can. So that's how that thematic statement would stand using those multiple scenes of that text. More do's and don'ts about thematic statements. They express a theme as a universal comment. They express a theme in your own words. They use qualifying words, can, may, often, and they draw information about a character's behavior. Do not, however, express a theme as a topic or a subject. The theme is blank. Do not express it as a cliche, right? Just avoid cliches at all costs in academic writing. Do not express a theme as a moral. It is wrong to gossip. Do not make it too general, all people and everyone, because we always have exceptions. And do not refer to specific characters, because our thematic statements, we step outside the text. Now, when we put it all together, we have our introduction, what I read to you guys earlier, attention getter, our bridge, and our thesis, and this is our introduction paragraph. It reads, the abstract concept of right and wrong has been contested by writers for millennia, changing meaning through time and cultures as it is perceived in various lights. In the Butter Battle book, Dr. Seuss explores the nature of perception as an ephemeral concept rather than a permanent one by suggesting a more powerful innate unity as the source of victory. Despite being physically divisive in the book, Dr. Seuss uses the wall to symbolize the idea that in order to transcend beyond the literal scope of humanity's hubris, we must put our egos aside, break down walls, and embrace diversity.